Hello. Welcome to First Unity Spiritual Campus. I'm Reverend Kimberley Harrell, and this is a class, How to Smudge. Native American Spirituality Practices and How to Smudge. My maternal grandmother is Cherokee, of the Eastern Band of the Cherokee, the Wolf Clan. And she taught me a lot about smudging when I was young, although she didn't call it that. She said, we're going to clear the air. That's what she said. We're going to clear the air. So when you say to me, what is smudging? Well, that's a lot of what smudging is all about, clearing the air. So tonight we're going to go through the history of smudging, how smudging came to be, why people do it, why you might want to do it, and then we're going to go into the hows of how to do it. So welcome again, and I want to get this out of the way real quick. I want to welcome my sons and my grandsons who are watching in Tennessee. Mama loves you, and I'm happy you joined me. Now, most of these classes I do right from my desktop, and I have my computer right in front of me so that I can comment with you in real time. Tonight, I don't have that because I'm in the studio with the green screen behind me, so I can show you some pictures as we go along in this class. So, I will promise, though, that I will get to all of your comments and questions after the class. Before I leave the campus, I will answer any questions. So as we go along, if you have any comments or any questions, feel free to comment, ask your questions. Let me know where you're joining me from, and I will be sure to answer those. As always, for all of my classes, we offer them free of charge, and love offerings are always appreciated. So you can also leave a love offering if you want for First Unity Spiritual Campus, and we so greatly appreciate that. So, let's get into this and dive right in. So, what is smudging? Smudging is the ancient art of burning herbs and plants for healing and cleansing purposes. People from all cultures since the beginning of time have been practicing the art of smudging. Smudging is one of the oldest and purest methods to clean people, to clean one person, a group of people, or to clean a space, whether it's a living space or a meeting space, but to just clean the air. Smudging can be used as a ceremony, as a spiritual practice, to wash away emotional and spiritual negativity that gathers in your physical body, your energy body, and in the space around us. Smudging can be very simple, and you can also make it very complex. It's up to you. And you know what? It works no matter how simply you do it or how complex a ceremony you create around the art of smudging. You do what feels good for you. Smudging also has practical applications for cleansing and purifying space. There are certain herbs and plants that have antibiotic, antiviral properties, cleaning out mold spores, pollen, dust, all kinds of things that are in the air that we no longer want. Bacteria, odors, allergens. It also is very grounding because it releases the negative ions. You know, even Mother Earth does that. We call it a lightning storm. When the lightning is, when too much positive ions, too much positivity is gathered up in the air, there's lightning shooting those negative ions right down to the ground, grounding those negative and positive ions. So smudging can help you get in sync with the natural rhythms of Mother Earth. Isn't that awesome? So, let's go through some of the history of smudging. In many cultures all around the world, from frankincense in the church to incense of Asia and the Middle East, to the raw act of brush burning in some Aboriginal, like out in the outback, the Aborigines, decide they want a space, and so they do brush burning to cleanse away the negativity from that area. So a lot of people might be saying that smudging is new agey. Well, it's not at all new agey, because people have been doing it since the beginning of time. It's definitely not just Native American, because ancient cultures smudged. They used herbs. But truly know that when you perform a smudging ritual, you are tapping into a frequency and a vibration that is as old as time, bringing forth that energy and that powerful spiritual tradition. So the Native Americans smudged, the ancient Egyptians smudged, the Catholic Church smudged, the Greeks and the Romans smudged. The Catholic Church smudges when they're waving around those urns of frankincense and incense. That's smudging. They're clearing away the air. And back in the Middle Ages, that was actually clearing away disease, clearing away viruses and bacteria that might be in the air. That was one of the main purposes for smudging. They smudged in the Amazon. The Mayans, the Incas, the Aztecs smudged. The pagans all over the world, the old religion smudged. And healers and shamans from almost every walk of life have used smudge, plants, and herbs to help heal. So it's a pretty exciting thing, isn't it? People all over the world have used these plants to generate smoke for beneficial effects. Smoke is also deeply symbolic, because as we burn something, the smoke ascends to the heavens, symbolically taking it to God. We do that in a burning bowl ceremony, and we do that when we're smudging. The smoke is gathering up any of that negative energy and taking it up to God, releasing it away from us. So incense of Asia and Europe, cedar and pine and sage of the Native Americans, smoke generated by plants has a primordial history of use for spiritual and health purposes. So you say, Reverend Kimberley, why would I want to smudge? Smudging is like taking an energetic shower. When you see people smudge, sometimes you see them go like this and bring the smoke over them. The smoke almost washes over you and then falls down like an energetic shower, clearing out any negativity that you might have in your aura. So what are some of the benefits we have of smudging? It can increase your sense of well-being and improve your mental focus. It clears out negative energy, actually changes the molecular structure of both the air and the energy that's around you, and that's what produces a cleansing effect. The sense of smell that we have as humans strongly links us to memory and trains our minds. Have you ever smelled a scent that instantly took you back to a time or a place that brought forth very specific and certain memories? Well, aromatherapy and smudging can do some of that for you. It's actually nature's antidepressant. Studies have proven that smudging is effective. And Dr. Clarence Hansel, a research scientist, said it is at least as effective as prescription medicine options without the side effects. The Archives of General Psychiatry came out in 1998 and published a study that found fresh air charged with negative ions was an effective treatment and preventative method of depression. So, wow, it'll lift your spirits almost immediately. And like my grandmother always said, it clears the air of bacteria, mold spores, dust, allergens, pollen, pet dander, and viruses. You can use smudging to cleanse objects. So you can cleanse a space. You can cleanse a room. You can cleanse things like your crystals. Some crystals are perfectly fine to wash or cleanse with water. Others would totally disintegrate and dissolve if you got them wet. So smudging is a great way to cleanse crystals and other things like your electronics that you can't just take and run under running water to cleanse, but the smoke from the smudge can cleanse them. Smudging also has relaxing effects. Smudging can offer calming and relaxation. Just smelling the smudge and then the things that you choose to smudge with. I generally like to smudge with sage and lavender, and that's very relaxing to me because it's a scent that my mind is automatically trained that we're going to get real. We're going to clear out some of this negativity. Smudging can increase your energy almost instantaneously because we train our mind to release those good hormones, those endorphins, serotonin and dopamine, and reduce cortisol in our system when we smell those herbs burning. And then that's when science has proven we are able to heal our human body when we are in a relaxed state of being, allowing that life force energy to flow through without negativity. So smudging then can also improve sleep. So if you're an insomniac, maybe go outside and smudge yourself, come back in, and then if you don't like to have that smoky smell on your sheets, go ahead and take a shower and jump in bed and see if you don't feel just automatically more relaxed. And it will increase the serotonin production that can help improve your sleep patterns. So the next time you find yourself at 3 a.m. saying, oh my gosh, and you're watching that clock every half hour, try it and see if it works for you. It does for me, and it works for a lot of people. So you say, what are the tools of smudging, Reverend Kimberley? Well, the tools for smudging are primarily herbs and plants that we're going to smudge. And then we're going to talk about some other things, but let's talk about those herbs and plants because there are so many. And I'm just going to name a few and give you some of the reasons you might choose to use particular herbs and plants when you smudge. But there are so many, and if you intuitively are drawn to use a particular herb or plant for smudge, trust your instinct. Go along with it. And then if you even doubt, Google it and see. Do an internet search and see, maybe Bing search it. I'm saying Google, and you might not even use Google as your search engine. But use whichever search engine you use and go ahead and search out the qualities of that particular plant that you thought, oh, I wonder if I can smudge with that. What would that do for the air for me? And take a look at it. And we're going to go over some of the primary or the traditionally frequent plants and herbs people reach for when they're smudging. So those herbs are representative of earth in the smudge ceremony. And plants have spiritual energy. Different plants vibrate at different frequencies, just like people and places. Plants are powerful, and they all have healing properties. Every plant on this earth has a healing property, and it's up to us to study and know what each plant is used for. And if it's a plant that you feel drawn to, check it out. Do a little research. Figure out why you have an affinity for that plant, why you decided that was the plant for you. Sage is a commonly used plant, and it has a yang or a masculine energy aspect. I like to use sage and lavender together. Lavender is a yin plant, a feminine aspect. So if you want, make sure that when you're smudging, use some yin and some yang. Use some positive and some negative. Because I always like to choose something that is going to clear out the negative energy, and then something that's going to put back in positive energy. So for me, that is sage and lavender. And then I always put a little bit of tobacco in to honor my ancestors. Some people put in maize or corn to honor the ancestors. So it's all a matter of what's important to you, what you feel in your heart, what you want to use. So the next thing we would use would be a bowl or a shell. The bowl or the shell, we use an abalone shell a lot. You see that a lot. I have this big scallop shell that's about that big around that I use sometimes for smudge, and that represents water in the smudge ceremony. Then we have a feather or the hand, and that represents air in the smudge ceremony. So now let's go to those herbs. We have sage, like I mentioned. Sage, the primary properties for sage are it's antibacterial. It cleanses, it blesses, and it heals. So that's the property that sage, right back here, you're going to see some of that. And you can Google those images and find them on the internet. Say sage properties in smudging, and it's going to tell you all the wonderful beneficial reasons you would maybe want to choose sage. You know, people say, well, Reverend Kimberley, your people are Cherokee. What do y'all use for smudge? And I said, well, my grandmother always used pine and cedar because, you know, that white mountain sage that grows out in the western plains, that's very indicative of the plains tribes. But the eastern tribes, the Cherokee, primarily used pine and cedar and no sage. But, you know, now we have the wonderful opportunity to not be limited by what grows near us. We can use just about anything from anywhere in the world. So always think of that when you're choosing, because you might find something that you source locally, and it might be something that you're sourcing from across the country. So pine. So if we are using pine, what are the properties that pines bring to you? Pine is wonderful for cleansing, for protection, prosperity, and good health. No wonder my grandmother would take a pine bough. Now, my grandmother, she didn't burn it, though. She didn't burn. When my grandmother would go out and take a pine bough and a cedar bough, and then she would come through the house waving them in the house and opening up all the windows, and she would wave that stale air out to the windows, out the windows and out the doors. And she did that every year around spring cleaning time at the end of winter when you're clearing out all that stale air that's been locked up in the house because we've been with the windows and the doors tightly closed because of the winter and the cold weather. So spring cleaning, she threw open the windows and the doors, and she would take that bough of pine and maybe a bough of cedar, and she would just take them and wave them through the air. And you're getting the benefit from the properties of the oils, of pine oil and the cedar oil. And so when I say that pine oil is cleansing, protective, and antibacterial, you might have heard of a cleaner called Pine Sol. That's how that came to be, because they use pine oil as the primary ingredient in Pine Sol to make a cleaner that it disinfects and cleans your home and makes it smell so good. And that's one of the reasons we all love the smell of a house at Christmas time. Doesn't it bring back wonderful, wonderful memories when you smell that cedar and that pine in the house? So cedar, that's a wonderful, wonderful plant that I love to use also with smudging. Cedar is all about renewal and protection and grounding. So together you can see pine and cedar throw that big 1-2 punch of wonderfulness when we are smudging. So when you choose what you're going to smudge with, be mindful what you want to accomplish, what you want to do with that. What is it you want to do? Is it that you just want to clear out the air a little bit, or is it that you want to mindfully clear out the air? You want to clear out the energy. Maybe there's been an argument in that space. And you know, when you go into a space, into a room where two people have had an argument before, you can really feel it, can't you? You can feel the tension because that energetically, that energy is still there. Even if those people have walked away and walked out of the room, you know, have you ever heard that saying, you could cut the tension with a knife? Because it's so true that those negative energies will hang around in a place long after the argument is over, long after the fear has subsided, long after the anger has dissipated and been forgiven. That energy still hangs around and is right there energetically affecting you when you walk in the room. Have you ever walked into the grocery store feeling great and in a happy mood, saying, oh, it's a great day, here I am, and then you walk through the produce section and maybe you encounter someone who's not had such a great day. You don't even have to speak to them, but maybe you come close enough with them that your energy body touches their energy body. And you say, well, how close would that be? So when we're talking about our energy bodies, we're talking about as far out as we could reach on both sides. So that's our aura, you know, that's our aura, that's our energy body. So when we are talking about our energy there, so if you thought of that bubble around you, and then you walking next to someone in the grocery store, frequently, if you're going down the other aisle, you absolutely are close enough that your energy's brushing up against their energy. And if your energy and their energy are commingling and they've just had a terrible day, maybe the worst day of their life, maybe they just lost their business or lost a loved one or broke up with their girlfriend or boyfriend, and you came in feeling happy as a lark, and then all of a sudden you're at checkout and you're feeling aggravated, you're feeling impatient, and you walk out of there going, what happened? I came in here thinking everything was fine and dandy, and here I am walking out feeling a little aggravated. So that's because you picked up some of that negative energy. So you can see the importance of smudging and getting rid of that negative energy. And there are all kinds of ways other than smudging, but smudging is a great way. So now let's continue on. I kind of got off track there. We're going to continue on with our list of herbs and plants that we might want to use to smudge with. And the next one is one of my all-time favorites, lavender. Like I said, I like to use sage and lavender because I like to use sage as my plant that is going to remove negativity from the air, and then I like to use lavender as the one that's going to put back in positive energy, positive good vibrations back in the air. So I'm going to take out the negative and put in the positive, because nature does not like a void. Nature will fill it back in. So if you just take out the negative and don't mindfully put back in the positive, you don't know what might jump back in there. And you want to have dominion over that because it's your space and you've claimed it and it's yours. And if you're taking the time to clear out the negative, take the time, put a little extra thought into it, and think of what you want to put back into it. So sage and lavender is a wonderful combination. Lavender will help you have restful sleep. Will help you have peace of mind. It helps you feel relaxed, where you can embrace happiness. It'll just make you happier. That's why lavender has been used forever and ever. I mean, for as long as you could imagine back, they would take lavender and use a rinse with bedding and linens. So if even back when they washed things at the river on the rocks, they would then take them and dip them down in water that was rosebuds and lavender buds in the water, dip them down in that, wring it out before they hung it on the line to dry, so that then the bedding, when it's put on the bed fresh, it smells like lavender or roses, or maybe a little bit of both if they used rose and lavender. But isn't that awesome to think of that beautiful, wonderful smell that is lavender, and put that in your smudge to fill your air with that lavender. Just helps you with a wonderful, peaceful feeling and relaxation. Palo Santo, used in South America and Central America, they call it their holy wood. It's used for cleansing and deep healing, emotional trauma, and stress. But what I find too is that is one scent that can be very polarizing. People either love it or they hate it. They either just love it or they say, oh, I don't care for that. So it's one of those woods, before you use it in your smudge, take a sniff of it and see if you like it or not, because it's certainly not universally loved, but it's used by an awful lot of people for cleansing and healing purposes, both emotionally and physically. So it's a wonderful choice. Thyme. You know, we're almost to Thanksgiving, and thyme is generally used as a food spice, as an additive in your spice for food, especially poultry cooking. So it's about time to fix a big turkey if you are a carnivore. And rosemary, thyme, and sage are wonderful food herbs, but they're also wonderful herbs for cleansing your space and cleansing the air. And thyme can, as its metaphysical properties are, it can remove obstacles. So if you're facing a challenge, you're on a business project, or you're an entrepreneur thinking of what you're going to accomplish with your business, and there seems to be an obstacle in your way, thyme is a wonderful herb to bring into that smudging practice to remove the obstacles. And it can also remove mind blocks, and it's a good memory booster. So think of that also now when you're getting ready to fix that turkey and you think, oh, maybe I won't grab the thyme, I'll just use the sage and the rosemary. Use that thyme, because it's a great memory booster and it removes obstacles. That's its metaphysical properties. That's some of the great stuff it'll do for you. So another one that I love from growing up in East Tennessee, we had a beautiful big lilac bush in our yard. And that lilac bush would have blooms that big. And it smelled so sweet in the springtime. Lilac is one of my all-time favorite scents. So when it's that right time of the year, I love to put some lilac in my smudge. Lilac is very soothing, very relaxing, and very grounding. And if you grew up in an area where lilac grows wild or grows in the yard in bushes and used in landscaping, you're going to find that using lilac in your smudge will bring back some of those beautiful and wonderful childhood memories for you. That's one of the things about living down here in Florida, that we can't necessarily grow all those plants. We have some beautiful plants that are indigenous to the subtropical land here in Florida that can't grow up in Tennessee, but then we also have some beautiful plants from up in the mountains that we can't grow here. And I miss those. Honeysuckle and lilac and mountain white ash. Oh my gosh, some beautiful, beautiful scents. So let's try to think of some others. So lemongrass, it's very purifying, very cleansing, refreshing, and is filled with encouragement. Lemongrass, it's such a wonderful scent. And it is a good scent for taking away bad odors. I told you at the beginning, I said hello to my boys. Well, growing up, my boys were both athletes. And I tell you what, you haven't ever smelled anything as stinky as teenage boys' socks. I'm telling you. No matter what you smell, that's one of the stinkiest smells you'll ever smell. So one of the ways I helped rid that odor was I would put a little lemongrass in the laundry with their socks. And then I put a little bottle of lemongrass oil on their bathtub, and I'd say, so after you get through with the shower, rub this lemongrass oil underneath your toes. It does work. So if you live with someone that has them stinky socks, try some lemongrass. Not just in your smudge, but go ahead and drop some lemongrass oil in your laundry, because it's wonderfully refreshing and takes away odors like you've never seen. See, you didn't know you were getting a country lesson too, in addition to how to smudge. So another one that is actually most people think of as a weed, up north and down here, down south, everywhere in the United States and probably in your part of the world too. Dandelion. Dandelion is wonderful for divination and spirit calling. So you want to call on the Great Spirit, or you want to divine something that's going to happen, put a little dandelion leaves. See, I'm not going to say weed, because we also use dandelion greens in our salads now, don't we? You know, when we were growing up, it was something we were always trying to eradicate from the yard and the garden. But now we actually use those dandelion leaves in our salad, and we can use it in our smudge. It's wonderful if you're wanting to do some divination work. Maybe you're wanting to call the Great Spirit or call on the spirits and have some communication there. Dandelion is wonderful for that. And I guess you would have never thought of that, would you? So what are some other? Dill. Dill weed, we primarily think of that with dill pickles, or with dill that we're going to use dill when we maybe make some chicken piccata, you know. So we usually think of it in the culinary arts, but we can also use dill. The dill, green, it's kind of got a little feathery plume look to it. It looks like a green feather, the very feathery looking plant dill is, and it's called dill weed. Not a weed, a wonderful plant, and it has wonderful healing properties, and it's wonderful for good luck and prosperity. So if you've been feeling that, hey, I might need a little good luck, and I'm putting out there to the world that I want to manifest more prosperity in my life, dill is a great choice for you to choose when you are choosing what to use with your smudge. So now I know y'all are going to raid the kitchen pantry and grab you some thyme and some sage and some rosemary and some dill and go put that all together and smudge it, and somebody's going to say come Thanksgiving morning, they're going to say, what happened to my herbs? But go ahead and use them to smudge because they're fabulous. Another one is peppermint. Peppermint. When I smell of peppermint, I think of summer days at my grandmother's house. Down by the creek, there was this awfulest lot of peppermint that grew that you never believed. And I loved to go down by the creek, pick some peppermint leaves and chew on them. It was just like popping a piece of peppermint candy. I loved chewing on those peppermint leaves. But peppermint, it's soothing and refreshing. And if you put it in your smudge, around this time of the year, it's wonderful for bringing in that energy for Yule and Christmas. Hanukkah. Peppermint is wonderful for that. Also, use it in your coffee. Have some peppermint mocha in your coffee or your tea. Peppermint, it's wonderful for this time of the year. But for me, it also brings to mind those summer days at my grandmother's house down by the creek with the peppermint plants. But yeah, get some peppermint and put it in your smudge. So see how creative you can be with your smudge. It doesn't always just have to be a stick of sage. Never, 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 never. So rosemary. Rosemary is another one. And again, protection, cleansing, that wonderful energy. And then the last one that I'm going to talk about on the herb list are flowers. Just flowers in general. Beautiful. They put that beautiful energy in. They bring in that beautiful scent. So some dried flowers. And the most powerful thing that you can smudge with are flowers that were given in love. When I was back home at Tennessee last month to celebrate my littlest grandson's 4th birthday, before I left, both my grandsons, Tristan and Jace, independently, apart from each other, picked roses from the rose bush and brought to me. So I wrapped them up in paper towels and put them in my luggage and brought them back and then laid them out on my dresser and dried them. So this weekend when I'm smudging for gratitude, And for Thanksgiving, I'm putting those roses in my smudge, because of all the energies on this earth, of all the emotions on this earth, the most powerful is love. The most powerful is love. So when you put in your smudge flowers that were given to you out of love, you are bringing that energy to you. You are embracing yourself with all that love, all that energy of love, and bringing it into your space. And there's nothing more powerful on all this earth than love freely given. So that's my plan for this weekend. And like I said, it's not just about burning the herbs. It's not just about burning the plant. It's wonderful to burn and let that smoke symbolically take your prayer and your thoughts up to the Great Spirit, to Father Sky, to God, Goddess, whatever you like to call that one presence and one power, our Creator. We let that smoke take our thoughts and our prayers to God. But we also can receive the benefits of smudging by just waving those plants around in our space. Because smudging does involve heat and fire. And so there may be times that you find yourself wanting to cleanse with these wonderful herbs and plants, but not in a place where you could safely light a fire and smudge. Well, they also make, and you can find them at stores, like if you have a Whole Foods around you, or a Fresh Market, or a Rollin' Oats, or any natural food store, or any metaphysical stores, you can generally also find a spray bottle of smudge. Spray smudge. And I'm going to tell you how you can make some for yourself. So anytime you find yourself in a place where, lighten up a stick of sage, or like I'd like to use a bowl and a shell, and I do mine loose. I don't care for the stick and the bundle, because it's hard for the air to get in there, so it's hard for it to stay lit. So if you've had issues with that, where you're using a sage stick or a smudge bundle, and it just keeps going out, you light it and it goes out before you even get halfway through a room, it's because there's not enough oxygen in there. It's pressed too tight. It's just wrapped way too tight. So you can clip some of the strings and just put some space in there, let some air in there, and it will do much better for you. But I like to create a bowl. So I take a bowl or a shell, put a little sand in it so it doesn't get too hot on my hand. Then I put whatever it is I'm using, whether it's sage, cedar, pine, lavender, rose petals, whatever I'm using, I put it in there. And then I put that pinch of tobacco and honor the ancestors. And then I light it all up and go around the room with my feather, and you can just use your hand, either one, to move that smoke around, to make it go to all the corners of the room and all over yourself. So know that it doesn't have to be the smoke and the smudge, that you can just take the plant like my grandmother and wave it around, and that will spread the oils of that plant around in the air. And then you can either go buy some spray smudge, or you can create your own. So if you're going to create your own, take some water. My grandmother would say use living water. Don't use distilled water or tap water. use living water. So the easiest water for us that is living water to purchase would be spring water. So use spring water that came fresh out of a spring, because that's living water. Living water is also out in the ocean, in any river and stream that's going by. That's living water. So use living water to make your smudge spray, and then drop in some essential oils like we've talked about. Sage, cedar, pine, lavender, peppermint, whatever resonates with you. And try to remember that formula that I talked about something to remove the negative and something to put in the positive. So sage and lavender, pine, cedar, and rose petals. Be creative. Be creative and make it yours. It's your space. You've claimed it as yours. Smudge it as yours. Don't just use what everybody else uses, what everybody else or the experts say you should use. Know what resonates with you is what you should use. And that's a wonderful day when we come to that understanding that if it's right for me, it's right for me, no matter what anybody says or no matter what Google says. You'll find that when you're working with crystals and as well as when you're working with plants and herbs, that what resonates with you is most important. Doesn't matter what the experts say, because for you it might be for a particular reason that nobody knows but you, that is an important herb or an important crystal to use. You can also smudge with crystals. You can take a crystal wand and wave it through the air. You're putting in that vibrational frequency of that crystal in your space. When you actively move it around in your space and then sit it up on a shelf or sit it on your counter or sit it on a bookshelf or sit it on your dresser, you're bringing that energy and that vibration intentionally into your space, and that's what smudging is. So when we say, what is smudging? That's what smudging is. Smudging is putting something intentionally into your space, and doing so using herbs and plants that were created by Mother Nature for a particular purpose, because every single plant on this earth has a purpose. They all have metaphysical properties, healing properties, and they all vibrate at their own individual frequency. So when you smudge with a plant, you're bringing that energetic frequency, that vibration, into your space. So if it dawns on you to use honeysuckle in your smudge, Google it and see about it. The only thing that I would caution you about not using for smudge is don't use some poison ivy, don't use some poison oak. Because if you ever grew up in the country, my little brother was so allergic to poison ivy. And one year, Dad bought a truckload of firewood from a guy that was selling firewood. Well, little did we know that that tree had at one time had poison ivy growing up it. So when Dad threw that firewood in the fire in the middle of winter, my little brother broke out with poison ivy all over his body. Everywhere that smoke had touched him, he was broke out with poison ivy, just big welts and rash all over because of the poison ivy on that wood. So I would not smudge with any of the plants that are known to be poison, sumac, poison ivy, poison oak, none of those. Don't use those, because you're going to bring that energy into your awareness and into your space, and you don't want that. So always, if something resonates with you that you think, I think I'll smudge with that, just, do a little double check, do a little internet search, see what the properties are of that plant, and then make sure that your intuition was right. And 9 times out of 10, it will be. So trust it. Trust your intuition. So how do we smudge? So now we're in the practical application. One of the things we say here is that we teach practical spirituality. We don't just teach you pie in the sky, concepts about spirituality. We teach you practical applications that you can choose what works right for you. So, how to smudge? To smudge, to be fully present in the moment with full awareness and mindful intention, slow and purposeful. That's how you want to smudge. So when you go decide, oh, okay, I need to smudge my space. I want to smudge my house or my condo. So what you going to do? You're going to choose. You're going to choose your herbs, like we talked about. You're going to choose your vessel, your shell, or a vessel. I have a couple of beautiful bowls that I use, ceramic bowls that I use for smudging. Make sure they're one that can withstand the heat. Because if you don't, if you use a glass bowl, most of the time about halfway through, all of a sudden you'll hear a pop and crack, and that bowl just cracked right in half because it can't take the heat. So make sure you're using something that is meant for the purpose, that you can use it for that purpose. So get your space. Open up your windows. Open up your doors. Even your interior doors. Don't let them be closed. Don't let a door be opened up against the wall and then that small space in between the door and the wall, because right there, that's where that negative energy is going to run and get trapped right in there. So have your door opened to where there's full play on either side. It's nice open space. So open up your cabinets. Open up your drawers. Open up any spaces within your house. Open up all your windows. Let in that fresh air, and we're going to let out the stale air. So go to your main entrance. Now, for some people, that's your front door. And for some people, the main door of the house is the back door. We each have a way we use our house, because some people have a beautiful front door, but then they drive around, and where they get out of their car, it's easier to access the back door. And so that is actually their main door. So think about it. What is the door you primarily go in and out? That is your main door. Sometimes it's a side door. Sometimes it's the door from the garage that goes on into the house. But determine what is your main entrance. And then I want you to determine what is the heart of your house. Some people, the heart of the house is right in the middle of the kitchen. When we have an open floor plan, it might be right in the middle of that wide open space. Some people, it's a living room. Some people, it's a dining room. So it's different for everyone. So it's very personal. What is the heart of your house? For some people, it might be right in the middle of the master bedroom. Because maybe you both work many hours each day, and when you come home, that heart of the house, that's where you have those heartfelt connections, those heartfelt conversations with the people in your house. So wherever that is for you, determine it, because it might be different for you, might be different for me, and might be different from somebody else down the street. So then we're going to say a prayer or an affirmation, focusing your full attention and your full intention on what you want to accomplish with this smudging ceremony or this smudging practice. Because what we said was that smudging is all about bringing into your space with intention. With intention. So you got to put your attention on your intention before you can bring it in and focus it. So once you've done that, determine the main entrance of your house, open the doors and windows, determine the heart of your house. You have your vessel that you're going to smudge with, and maybe it's a smudge stick. Maybe you prefer that. So then you just have a stick, and maybe you just wave the smoke with your hand. Whatever works for you. But first, get in that space, say your prayer, say your affirmation, light up your smudge, and then first smudge yourself. Smudge yourself and the other people that are there with you to participate in this smudging. So when I'm saying smudge yourself, I generally start in the front, down at the feet, and I raise up my foot and smudge the sole of my foot. Raise up the other foot and smudge the sole of that foot. Don't fall. Make sure if you need to that you have something to hang on while you do this process. Then smudge yourself up. The front, make sure you smudge under your arms. Smudge over the top of your head, bringing that smudge and that smoke over. And then you can do the same in the back, especially if you're very flexible. If you're not, you might ask somebody else that's with you to do the back side and go from the top down on the back side. So then smudge all the other people in much the same way. Then you're ready to start smudging the space. So then step in to the middle of the room. And then I'm going to tell you to work that room like a medicine wheel. Step from the middle and then go out to the east wall. Come back to the middle. Then you can go to the south and come back. And then you go to the west and back, to the north and back, and then walk around the perimeter, pushing all that energy from the middle out to the sides and then all around out towards the door and out towards the windows. Then ever how many rooms you have, go repeat that process in each and every room. Always starting in the center and pushing the energy out. Pushing it out to each direction, and then out the windows and out the doors. Then once you've completed that, completed it through the whole house, well then you can actually go outside and smudge the outer side of the house, pushing the energy out to the edges of the property. So if it's a lot in the city, you're going to push it out to the road, out to each corner, out to the sides. If it's a big area out in the country, well, you might just want to decide ahead of time, this is the area I'm going to space, because you're not going to go out walking a couple of acres to do it, most assuredly, unless you're pretty dogged and tenacious. So you just repeat that process through the whole house, clearing out that energy and remaining intentional and focused for that entire process. Then at the end, you're going to come back to your prayer or your affirmation. You're going to send that up to the heavens. Send it up to God, Goddess, whatever you call that divine energy, Creator, Source, Universe, whatever name you use. You're going to send all that back up. And then you're going to take that smudge. So like I said before, I put sand in it. So then I like to take it, walk it out, and with gratitude and thanksgiving, I offer a prayer to Mother Earth for the plants and herbs that she has allowed us to use. And then I put that back to the earth in a safe place. Don't put it somewhere where it's going to start a wildfire or whether it's going to start a pile of leaves flying. You know, here we have a lot of sandy soil and shale, so it's not hard to find a place. If you're living in an area where there are a lot of fall leaves on the ground now, you might want to clear away an area and even dig a little hole and put that back in there, tamp it down really good, make sure there's no spark or no danger of fire, and then cover it back up with dirt to make sure that there's no fire. Because safety is always paramount. Safety is always your number one priority. Safety for you, and safety for others, and safety for Mother Earth. So that's how we are going to smudge a space. So if we're just smudging a person, you want to, whether it's just for you, or maybe you're going to smudge a group. Maybe you've had a women's circle or a men's circle or a book study, and you've decided that everybody wants to be smudged, and you're the one that's going to do it. So you're going to, again, get your things ready. You're going to get your shell or your vessel. You're going to put some sand in it, but also a little pea gravel works very well as well. So if it's not sand that you have handy, the pea gravel works really well. Put in your herbs and plants that you have decided mindfully and with intention that you are going to use for this smudge. Light it up. Then you're going to say your prayer or your affirmation. Get the smudge started once it's smoking really good. Start at your feet, smudge underneath your feet like I said before, then up the front of your body, around your head, and back down the back. And you may want to visualize the smoke clearing your aura and taking any negative energies up to Father Sky. That's always a beautiful visualization. And so then you just proceed on with each person. So now you may have a question about prayers and affirmations. So Reverend Kimberly, I heard you say that a couple times, that when I'm going to smudge, I need to say my prayer or affirmation. So just what is the prayer or the affirmation? Well, you're going to know that's different for every person and for every application. But a lot of people like to have somewhere to start or an example. So I've written down a couple of prayers here that I thought might help you. And certainly you're not going to use them word for word, but they are prayers that are indicative and an example of what you might decide to do when you're going to do a smudge. So you might start out, have your smudge already in your prayer. You know, I call the quarters in. I call, Reverend Temple says she calls the directions in. It's exactly the same thing, no matter what word you use. So you're going to call in the directions. Call in the east, the south, the west, and the north, and call in those elements of air, fire, water, and earth. And you're going to call them in and ask Mother Earth to be with you. And then one prayer is, negativity that invades my sacred space, I banish you away with the light of my grace. You have no hold or power here, for I stand and face you with no fear. Be gone forever, for this I will say, this is my sacred space. And so it is. And, you know, a lot of pagans love to have very rhyming prayers. So that was one that's kind of has a little bit of a rhyme to it. It sounds a little sing-songy. And so you can memorize one. You can write it out and memorize it. Or you can just be spirit-led. Just clear your mind and thought and just say what comes to mind. So you might say, may the positive energy of the universe surround me, flow through me, bring to me peace to my mind, love to my heart, and calm to my spirit. And so it is. So see, that can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be. You can write out a 3-page prayer, or you can write out a one-liner. You know, it's all up to you. So this is one that I use a lot. I release and I let go all that does not serve me this day. I allow these sacred herbs to cleanse my energy, my aura. I release and I let go all negative energy from my body, my mind, and my spirit. I fill my energy, my aura, with positive love and light. And I allow the divine life force energy to flow through my body, through my mind, and through my spirit. I allow the divine life force energy to flow freely without restriction. I am whole and I am healthy, and so it is. So those are a couple of examples, and you can make it be as sing-songy, rhymey. You can write a song, you can sing a song, you can write poetry. If you are a poet, you can write a beautiful poem that is your prayer. You can make it as simple as just, let me be love. And then you can make it as complex as the most formal ritual you ever heard of. It's all entirely up to you. And you might choose to use very formal verbiage for certain events, and you might choose to use very simple. It might just be, let me be cleansed. Cleanse me of this negativity. Cleanse me of this anger I was feeling earlier. Cleanse me of this sadness I have been feeling. It might be just that. And it's all perfect, no matter what it is. So know that. There is no right and there is no wrong in how to smudge. It's what works for you. What works for you is right and perfect all the time. God is good all the time. And smudge is good all the time. And it's right and perfect no matter how you do it. Whether you do it very simply or very complex as a ritual. It's all good, however you do it. Whether you do it where you burn the herbs and the plants, or you do it where you just wave the plants around the air, or you do it by spritzing a spray that you have created or that you bought. Either way, you are energetically cleansing the air with intention. And that is what it's all about. As simply as my grandmother said it, we're going to clean the air. That is what smudging is in a nutshell. It's cleansing the air. It's creating your space with intention. An intentional prayer, an intentional thought, an intentional affirmation. And whatever works for you, works for you. Absolutely, all the time. And whether you believe it or not, or believe in it or not, smudging does work. It's been used since the beginning of time. Since before we had organized religions. Since before we had organized societies. Cavemen used smudge. They burned plants and herbs in the cave to cleanse out the energy. All peoples, all parts of the world use smudging, some aspect of smudging, and they have for all time. So know anytime you decide to use smudge, whether it's simple or ritualistic, you are tapping into an ancient, primordial practice. And you are bringing forth all that good to your space and your life. So think about it, smudging. And so maybe you say, well, Reverend Kimberley, when should I smudge? Well, I'm going to say, whenever you feel the need. Whenever you feel the need, you feel that the energy around you is feeling heavy. Your space is heavy. We've all felt that, haven't we? That sometimes we're in a place emotionally or actually in a place physically when everything around us feels heavy. Sometimes that heaviness comes from grief. Sometimes it comes from a heartache that we broke up with a lover. Sometimes it comes from a sadness that we just can't seem to shake or get over. Sometimes it's because we're all of a sudden empty nesters when we raise children, and all of a sudden they've gone off to live their lives, and we're no longer so busy because we were so busy being their parent that we weren't living our own life, and then we have to reimagine our life and start living our life. And sometimes that can be what smudging is all about. Getting rid of that heaviness. It can be a wonderful practice to do when there's been an argument, when that tension is so strong in the room you can cut it with a knife. It will clear it out. Sometimes it's a great time to smudge when you buy a new house, a new condo, rent a new apartment, and you're in a new space. You don't know who was there before you. You don't know what kind of energy was there. You don't, excuse me, I'll grab some water. You don't know what's going on before in that space. So smudging it is getting rid of the other people's energy. The energy, the residual energy that was left in that space, and you're claiming it as yours. So that's a wonderful time to smudge. When you have a new house, a new apartment, a new condo, a new home, a new space. Maybe it's a new office space. Maybe you just got a promotion and you got promoted into a new office space, and maybe the person that had that job before you didn't leave on the best of terms, so left some of that energy in that office space. Maybe you want to come in and smudge. And maybe if it is a place of business, you don't want to come and bring your smudge bowl and a lighter and light it up and smoke up the room, because the fire department's going to come, and because it's got a commercial fire alarm in there, and you're going to set off the fire alarm, and the fire department's going to be outside the door. So that might be a perfect time for getting some of that spray smudge and smudging with the spray smudge, or creating some spray smudge. And maybe a good time to smudge is a time when someone unwelcome invades your space and you want to get rid of that energy. Maybe you've had a home invasion, or maybe you've had somebody come into your home as a guest, and when they left, you didn't like the feel of the energy, the way the energy changed, because I guarantee you it does. Places and spaces take on the energy of the people that have been there, the things that have gone on there. And sometimes you might want to clear that out and say, this isn't feeling quite like me. I want to smudge this space and get rid of that. That's a great way to use smudge and to use a smudging practice. So like I said, smudging can be a practical purpose that you have to clear out the energy, to maybe clear out a contagion. Maybe there's a virus going around. Who would have heard of that? Here in 2020, we've heard a lot of that, haven't we? That there's a virus in the air that is from spit droplets or from breath, that all of a sudden there's all this viral contagion in the air. And what can we do about that? Well, we could smudge with some plants that have some antiviral properties, like pine and cedar and sage, and clear out some of that out of the air. We can clear out mildew spores that are in the air. Mold spores get in the air and they want to hang out and hang around. They want to get on the surfaces. Smudging can help clear that, kill them and get rid of them. So it's not just about energy, like clearing out negative energy from an argument, or negative energy from somebody that just didn't have any good vibes. You know, it's not just about that. It's not all new agey. It can be very practical to clear out a space with herbs and plants. It's been being done since the beginning of time, back in the time when the plague was happening. If you've ever watched documentaries or movies that depict that time, you would see the people going around the town with brush and waving smoke. They were killing pestilence. They were killing insects with the smoke, or driving them away with the smoke. They were cleaning the air of bacterial and viral contagions that were in the air with the smoke. You know, nowadays we have modern medicine. That's great and wonderful. But we still also have those old tried and true methods that are still there. And to use a combination of them is a wonderful thing. So clearing out that space. When somebody comes in and is at your house for a function and then they leave and you're like, it feels a little icky in here. Something doesn't feel right. Go ahead and smudge, clear it out, get it out of there. Use some crystals, use some herbs and plants and clear out that energy. Maybe you've had an argument. Clear out that energy out of your space. It's your space. Claim it. Keep it. It's yours. Make it yours. Don't let anybody make you feel bad about it. Smudge. You don't have to light something and set off the fire alarm. You can use a spray. You can just wave the plant around in the air, and that works wonderfully. So smudging. So why do we do it? We do it so that we can be happy and that we can be healthy. We do it to clear our mind. We do it to make us physically better, whether that's because we're relaxed or because we become peaceful. It also helps us clear that spiritual energy. It helps us be more open and receptive to receiving all those gifts that God is bringing to us. It helps us to open up and receive that divine life force energy and allow it to flow freely without restriction through us and around us and around us. See, you come across people in their day, in your life, that you just love being around them. You just love the way they feel, don't you? Because they have good energy. They're vibrating at a high frequency, and they have good energy. So if you're not feeling that, if you're not feeling like that, smudging can help you. Raise your vibration. Raise your frequency. Clear away that negativity. Allow yourself to exist in that positive place, in that positive state. And the most important thing about smudging is intention. It's one of the most important things about any work we do, is being intentional. Setting your attention and your intention on what you want to create. It's what you want to focus your energy on. Because what we think about, we bring about. What we think about, we bring about. So use your attention and intention most when you are thinking about smudging. Use your intention and intentionally choose the herbs and the plants that you're going to smudge with. You choose them for a reason, for a purpose. Don't just use what somebody told you to use. Think about, put your thought and your heart into what you want to accomplish with that smudging practice, with that smudging ceremony, with that smudging ritual. Maybe it's a house blessing of a new house, a new home, a housewarming. Maybe it's just clearing out because I had somebody over and I didn't care for their energy. Maybe it's that we had an argument last night, so we need to clear out the air. Maybe it's that the house has been closed up because it's winter and it's springtime now, and we just want to throw open the doors and windows and do a good spring cleaning. Not only cleaning the surfaces, but cleaning out the air and cleaning out the energy. So think about why you want to smudge, what you want to accomplish. And remember to always give thanks. Always give the thanks to the Mother Earth and to those plants for the abundance they give us. Think of the ancestors and always give the ancestors your thanks. With intention, I always put some tobacco in my smudge. And I don't just use any tobacco. I use cherry Cavendish pipe tobacco. I use that because my older brother smoked a pipe occasionally. And that's the tobacco he used. So we lost him in a motorcycle accident back in 1999, and he was only 45. And I use that tobacco to pay honor to my ancestors and honor to my brother. And smelling that smell brings him right there with me when I'm smudging. So make it personal. Make it heartfelt. Make it yours, whatever you choose to smudge with. So know that this weekend I'm going to be smudging with some sage and lavender and some rose petals that my grandsons gave me from my last trip to see them. And I'm going to be filling the air with love and all that love energy. So the next time you're given flowers as a love gift, save them. Don't throw them out when they wilt in the vase. Don't throw them out. Hang them upside down somewhere or lay them out on your dresser. I'm not saying you have to do the whole bouquet. Maybe do a couple of flowers if you don't want to do. If you have a space to do it, the whole bouquet is wonderful to do. But if you just have a small space and you don't have space for all that, just do a couple of the flowers. Try them out. And then the next time you smudge with those flowers, and you will feel all that love energy in the air, because that is the most powerful energy on this earth, love. And bring it into your space by smudging with those flowers that were given to you in love. And I promise you'll feel it. And I'm going to ask you to let me know when you do it, how you feel that. So give thanks when you smudge. So this Thanksgiving weekend, it's a wonderful time to smudge. Give thanks. Give thanks to Mother Earth for the plants that you will be using. Give thanks to Father Sky and allow that smoke to take your prayer and your affirmation to God, Goddess, whatever word you like to use. It's all the same energy. It's that same energy. So the fire and the smoke, take your prayer and affirmation to Father Sky. And then when you put those herbs back in the ground at the end of your smudge practice, you're giving it back to Mother Earth in the burnt ashes. But do it with intention, and with gratitude, and with thanksgiving. So thanks so much for joining me for How to Smudge. It's part of my Native American Spirituality series of classes here at First Unity Spiritual Campus. So we also do, how to make a medicine bag. What is a medicine bag and how to make it? That'll probably be the next class, and it'll be in the springtime. But our next events that we have coming up that are so exciting that I'm super excited to share with you. Thursday morning, Thanksgiving morning, we have a Let's Be Grateful Together service that's scheduled at 10 a.m. So while you're making your turkey, while you're cooking a wonderful dinner, you can just put on YouTube, on your TV, or Facebook, on your phone or iPad, and watch the service. We're not going to be here in person this year because we're live streaming everything, so it's actually going to be video, and it's still fabulous. So you're going to want to tune in and hear some wonderful blessings and wonderful messages of thanksgiving and gratefulness, and some beautiful songs from our First Unity voices. Wanda Nero Butler and our voices will be singing some beautiful songs about gratefulness. So join us this Thanksgiving morning at 10 a.m. And if you can't join right then, the beauty of the technology today is that you can watch it anytime on demand. You don't have to watch it when it live streams. You can watch it anytime on demand. So then our winter solstice is December 21st, winter solstice. And what a winter solstice we have for you this year. So this year on the winter solstice is the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter. And it's happening right on the winter solstice. So right now, out there in the night sky, you are going to see a quarter moon, and just right off from it, you're going to see two very bright stars. The biggest and the brightest is Jupiter. The one near to it is Saturn. And every night from now until winter solstice, they're coming closer and closer together until they are going to be just slap right beside each other. And that's called the Great Conjunction. It happens every 20 years, But this is the first time they've been at 0 degrees since the 1600s. So you're going to want to see that. So it's a wonderful energy that's building to the winter solstice and the Saturn and Jupiter conjunction. Saturn and Jupiter are all about career success, professional success. Jupiter is all about that optimistic, that hope energy. Saturn's a little more pessimistic, but very practical energy. And they're all about career success, so they're coming together. So you're going to have the best of both worlds all at the same time, coinciding with the winter solstice. So what an amazing energy that's going to be. And we're going to have a live stream service at 6 p.m. here. Reverend Dr. Aileen Curtin and I will be leading that service, and it's going to be so fabulous. We can't wait for it because it's going to be off the chain. It's going to be exciting. Our First Unity Voices will be here for that. We'll be here for that. So you be here for that. Our winter solstice celebration on December 21st at 6 o'clock. And then we have a beautiful and wonderful surprise for you on Christmas Eve. Our doors have been closed and our hearts have been wide open. But now on Christmas Eve, we get to come together for a real live service in person. And it's going to be in person at Williams Park in downtown St. Petersburg, Florida. We're also going to live stream it for all of you that have joined our ministry from all over the globe. But for everyone within a couple-hour drive of St. Petersburg, you're going to want to come to it because all the First Unity Voices are going to be here, and it's going to be a fabulous concert. All of our spiritual leadership team is going to be on board, and we are going to have several speakers that night led by our very own Reverend Dr. Temple Hayes. Last year, she was at Carnegie Hall on Christmas Eve delivering the Christmas message for the world. This year, she's home, and she's delivering that message from the amphitheater stage at Williams Park. A Christmas message for the world. So come and celebrate the season. Celebrate with us in the park. It's going to be a huge event for all the Tampa Bay region to come together in the park. That park will accommodate a couple thousand people. So come on out at 6 o'clock on Christmas Eve for a beautiful candlelight service. It's going to be fabulous. Our children are involved, and you're going to love it. It's going to be a wonderful event. Judy at Spice Routes Cafe is offering a beautiful big pot of stew with cookies and hot apple cider for everyone, free of charge as her Christmas gift to you. So come on out early, get your seat in the park, bring your blanket or your beach chairs or your lawn chairs, and come snag your seat early and grab a bowl of stew from Judy at Spice Routes Cafe. And then at 6 o'clock, our beautiful Christmas Eve candlelight service will begin. And it's going to be so fabulous. You've got to be there. Lynn and Alan are decorating the park like you wouldn't believe. It's going to be amazing, and you certainly don't want to miss it. So we are so happy and excited to have you there. So come join us. And thank you again for seeing me for this class. And just like always, if you want to leave a love offering, there will be a link in the description where you can leave a love offering for the class. And I appreciate you. And if you have joined my past classes, you know that I offer my class notes to anyone. You can text me, or you can message me here on Facebook, or you can send me an email at reverendkim@firstunity.org, or let me know right there in the comments that you would like to receive the class notes, and I'll be happy to get them out to you. So thank you so much for joining tonight, and I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving.